His name was Daniel Mercer. He was 31 years old, working in a glass building where everyone spoke too much and said very little. If you had met him, you would not have called him loud, or arrogant, or attention-seeking. He wasn't any of those things. He was just constant, always explaining, always clarifying, always a step ahead in words, even when his life wasn't moving at all. Daniel explained himself in meetings before anyone asked. He justified his ideas before anyone challenged them. He told friends about plans that weren't real yet, and he told family who he was going to become. Talking made him feel like momentum existed, like progress was happening simply because words were moving forward. Most evenings ended the same way. His phone glowing in his hand, messages half-written, voice notes recorded, deleted, then recorded again. He was always about to start. At work, people nodded when Daniel spoke. They listened. Sometimes they even agreed. And then they moved on. Someone else got promoted. Someone quieter. Someone who never talked about what they were building. Daniel noticed it, but he explained it away. Timing. Politics. Luck. That word luck carried him for years. It made disappointment feel temporary, and it made waiting feel reasonable. One night, he stayed late at the office. Not working, just sitting there, scrolling, waiting for motivation to arrive. The building was almost empty. Lights were dim, desks were quiet. Through the glass wall, he noticed Mark from accounting. Mark was older, average, no charisma, no strong opinions in meetings. He barely spoke at all. Mark didn't even notice Daniel watching. He was just there, alone, typing, focused. The next morning, the news spread quietly. Mark had been moved to a different floor, a better role, more responsibility. At lunch, Daniel finally asked him. Not angrily, not joking, just honestly. How did you pull that off? Mark didn't smile. He didn't celebrate. He shrugged, like the answer didn't matter much. I stopped talking about what I wanted to do, he said, and started doing it after work. That was it. No advice, no speech, no encouragement, just a sentence that didn't ask for permission to exist. That night, Daniel went home and felt restless. Not inspired, exposed. Like someone had turned a light on in a room he didn't want to see yet. Out of habit, he opened his phone and started typing a message. Then he stopped. For the first time, explaining himself felt embarrassing. Not painful, just unnecessary. So he didn't. The next day, Daniel spoke less in meetings, not strategically, not intentionally. He just didn't feel the urge. When people talked, he listened. When ideas came, he wrote them down instead of announcing them. It felt uncomfortable, like standing in a room without furniture. At home, the silence was worse. No one knew what he was thinking anymore. No one validated his struggle. No one reassured him that he was on the right path. Some nights, he almost broke, almost messaged someone, almost explained everything. But he didn't. Weeks passed. Nothing dramatic happened. No applause. No sudden progress. Just quiet repetition. Work. Evenings. Notes. Learning things no one asked him to learn. Fixing things no one noticed yet. People started saying his name differently. Not louder. More carefully. One day, someone asked him, "You've been quiet lately. Everything okay?" Daniel nodded. It was the first honest answer he'd given in a long time. Still, as he walked home that evening, there was a tightness in his chest. A question he couldn't answer yet. He didn't know if this silence was leading somewhere or if he was just disappearing more quietly than before. And that uncertainty followed him all the way home. Daniel didn't celebrate that feeling of alignment. He didn't tell anyone about it. He didn't even try to understand it fully. He just let it exist. The days that followed looked ordinary from the outside. Same desk, same building, same people talking a little too much about things that might happen someday. But something inside Daniel had shifted. He moved slower, not in action, but in reaction. He no longer rushed to fill gaps with explanations. When someone misunderstood him, he noticed the discomfort and let it pass. That was new. Before, misunderstanding felt like danger. Now it felt like information. He started arriving a little earlier, not to impress anyone, but because the quiet helped him think. He spent time fixing small things in systems no one talked about because they weren't exciting. The kind of problems that didn't earn praise, only stability. Some evenings he stayed late again, this time actually working, not scrolling, not waiting, just doing. At home, the silence still pressed on him. There were moments when he wanted to tell someone what he was building, just to make it feel real, to hear himself say it out loud, to borrow belief from someone else. Some nights, he opened his phone and stared at the screen longer than he wanted to admit. His fingers hovered, ready to type, ready to explain. But he stopped himself, not because he was strong, but because something felt different now. Explaining felt like giving away focus he didn't have much of yet. But this is where most people stop. They reach this quiet place and mistake it for emptiness. They assume nothing is happening because nothing is visible. They return to noise because noise feels productive. Daniel felt that pull too. There were days when the lack of feedback made him doubt everything, when no one asked questions, when no one noticed, when silence felt less like progress and more like being forgotten. What kept him there wasn't confidence, it was curiosity. He wanted to see what would happen if he stayed quiet a little longer, if he trusted actions instead of announcements, if he let results speak when they were ready. Weeks turned into months. People began coming to Daniel with specific questions, not broad discussions, not future talk, real problems. The kind you only bring to someone you trust to handle things calmly. He noticed it without smiling, without telling anyone. He simply responded, clearly and briefly, then went back to work. One afternoon, his manager called him in again, not for a meeting, just a conversation. She asked about a process Daniel had improved quietly. He explained it the same way he had before. Simply. No story. No ambition attached to it. Just what it did, and why it mattered. She listened longer this time. When Daniel walked out, nothing official had changed. No new title. No announcement, but the air felt different. Like something had been set in motion without needing permission. On his walk home, Daniel realized something that surprised him. He no longer felt the urge to tell anyone about his day. Not because it wasn't important, but because it finally felt complete without an audience. He wasn't louder. He wasn't finished. He wasn't successful yet. But he was steady. For the first time, his life wasn't chasing his words. His words were waiting for his life to catch up. If you're listening to this and something feels familiar, try one small thing. The next time you feel the urge to explain yourself, pause. Let the silence stay for a moment longer than feels comfortable. See what remains when the noise falls away. And if you've ever felt torn between talking about your future and quietly building it, tell me in the comments which one you're choosing right now. If stories like this resonate with you, consider subscribing. Quiet lessons tend to stay longer.